And welcome back in. Our big board, as you see it right there, brought to you by WVU Medicine. Our 2016 Signing Day special for the West Virginia Mountaineers, brought to you by United Bank. Jeff Culhane, Jed Drenning, and now joined by the head coach here on our set, Dana Holgorsen, stopping by for a few minutes to run down this recruiting class and go through all the hard work you guys put in. January is an interesting month for you guys. It's a little unique, is it not? I mean, you guys are out there, you're traveling, you're getting after it, and lining everything up to make sure it is what you want it to be for this day here in the first week of February.
It's a little stressful. It's not as busy or probably stressful than December is. December is the worst. It's the worst month because you're juggling the end of the season. You're juggling the current kids that you have on campus. Getting those guys to finish school the right way, and then you got to do bowl prep. You got to practice. You got to get the young guys in and get those guys figured out. You got to deal with the holidays. You got the bowl game, which is travel and everything, and then you got to continue to move forward to 2016. Not only keeping track of recruits, but dealing with your current guys as well. You're trying to get guys to stay in school or talk guys out of going to the draft or whatever it is, so you just don't slow down. And then when January kicks around, 2016 gets settled. Had our first team meeting with our guys, with our team, the team that's going to win us games.
Yeah.
We had the first team meeting yesterday with those guys. Those guys have been down there in the weight room for the last 2-3 weeks. That's up and going, and then you're flying all over the country trying to get this new class signed. So it's 2 very busy months.
Mm-hmm. Coach, take an opportunity to talk about one of the hot topics has been for quite some time, and it will be moving forward, this early signing period possibility. Because for those out there who don't understand it, in effect what happens is these kids commit to you at a much earlier stage, and then you're left chasing ghosts to fend off other schools. It's a drain on resources, it's a drain on time, it makes life difficult, and we can't really figure out what's gained from doing that. So what are your thoughts on the possibility of maybe having a signing period at some earlier juncture, whether it's December or some point earlier?
We're on the screen there. We got those 9 guys that were early enrollees. I've never had 9 high school guys come in early. I think the most that we've had is 5. So it's becoming more and more common where high school guys are joining their schools a whole semester early, and it's very good for their development. One of the downsides of that is those guys really don't get to experience a signing day. They don't get to do anything. Those 9 guys were faking a signing at WVU.
Yeah.
Well, they miss out on the whole signing day, which is a special time for young men. They get to go into their auditorium or their gymnasium or wherever, and they get to set something up to where they have a real signing with their parents and their coaches and their peers, which is a very, very, very special day. They miss out on that, which I don't think is right. That's step number 1. We have an early signing day for junior colleges, and the reason we do that is so they can end recruiting because they know where they're going to school. Where if a high school guy has already been, if he's going to meet graduation requirements, they know they're going to meet them. They know that they're already admitted to the specific school. Why can't they sign on that same day on December 17th? Yeah. You can say, well, what happens if that guy doesn't meet the academic requirements, or he just wants to go ahead and sign on that day too? Well, that's fine. In their recruiting right there, as long as they know where they're going. That's going to save it's going to save them a lot of hassle from a lot of schools coming and talking to them in January. It's going to save the schools, the universities, just a ton of money, just flying all over the country, trying to keep track of these guys that have been committed to you for 2 months, 6 months, a year. But you still got to go see them. You can't ignore them. Otherwise, other schools are going to swoop in there to try to get them to sign with them. So I don't see a downside to doing it late December. It's something that's been talked about. I feel pretty confident that could pass here pretty quick.
And something outside of, before we get into specific personnel, the topic of kids who declare early. In effect, as it stands now, once you declare, you become property, you become chattel. There's not much else you can do. It's a pretty intractable system to benefit the NFL, which I understand that. But is there a better balance that can be struck? after they get their grade back in, after they make a decision, maybe changing their mind at a later point to give them a little more flexibility to maybe consider the well-being of the future of the kid. Is that possible?
Yeah, I definitely think there's some things that can be done. You know, the NFL says that they're making a strong push to keep kids in school, but that number keeps going up every single year. I mean, if you look back at the last 10 years, that number has rose every single year. It's up to 112, 115 this year, if I'm not mistaken. You know, we unfortunately lost two great players. I just felt like I love both Wendell and Darryl to death, and we'll follow them and wish them luck, and for the rest of their lives, that's for sure. But I just felt like they left some unfinished business at West Virginia. And here's my main point: if a guy wants to come out early, I got no problem with it as long as he has his degree. He comes to a specific university to be able to get his degree. And both those young men left without their degrees. So if a lot of kids are getting their degrees in 3 years and they're transferring to other four-year universities to move on. You know, we've had that happen here. And as long as a guy comes to West Virginia, gets his degree, I feel like that we've done that young man a service that we set out to do in the very beginning, regardless of what their career was like. Get them to get their degree if they can, and they still have eligibility remaining. I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I want to go back to the early signing day conversation. You feel pretty good about that in the near future?
Well, I don't. You'd have to ask Shane and Gordon, those guys. The administrators make those decisions. You know, they vote on it, and it's been talked about it. We have meetings every May out in Scottsdale. All the Big 12 coaches get together. The SEC, the Pac-12, the AFCA has a big to do where they discuss things. This has been a topic that we've discussed for a couple of years. The basketball guys have dealt with this for a long time, and they warn us don't go too early. I am not in favor of a summer signing period,
right,
or sign as a junior. There's no way I would ever support that. I think the one thing that makes sense is December after the kid's senior year, December during the kid's senior year. They typically know when they're going at that point, and then you allow those guys to be able to experience a signing, which is what I think makes the most sense.
Do you feel coaches, your colleagues around the country, majority-wise, are in favor of that?
Yeah,
with you?
Yeah. I mean, the conversations that I've had with them, that's the one thing that makes sense. You know, and there's some other things that's been brought up, like summer, like junior years. There's not been a whole lot of that positive discussion. Right. When it comes to that, so we'll see what happens.
Here at the head coach, Dana Holgorsen, our National Signing Day special presented by United Bank. Let's talk about the class now. With Dana, give me the 35,000-foot view, aerial view, as you take a look at this thing as a whole. Your take on it, your takeaway, the hard work you guys put in. How do you feel coming away from this particular class?
I feel great. I do. There was no surprises. If there's no surprises,
it's always good.
Oh, well, it's the first time in 6 years that it's happened for me here at WVU. So, you know, that's number one. I mean, we you know, I thought the staff's done a great job of going out and getting the guys that we've had committed and closing on a couple of guys that we felt pretty good about. There was about 3-4 guys here coming into today that we were hoping that we would get, and we ended up getting all those guys and didn't lose any of them. So. No drama, which was good, you know, but just overall, I think we got a good collection of kids. You know, we got, you know, a bunch of them that are high academic guys, which is going to be very, very important for our future. And then, you know, we got some of the guys that I think will be able to give us some immediate help to replace some of the seniors that we lost. You know, so just overall, I feel pretty good about them.
Well, a couple things I'd like to point out is that the two words that kept coming up again and again, because I had a chance to talk to a number of these coaches, character and versatility. I think that really is the overriding theme in this class, and that's something we've moved toward as a program. When you can populate your locker room with guys of high character, then when you face that adversity that you know is coming in the Big 12, you have a pretty good shot at overcoming that. And then from a leadership standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, guys that can give you different options to do different things. Talk a little bit about that and how you guys integrate that into your approach.
Well, I mentioned the high academic guys, you know, in high character, high academic guys, you know, those guys are important. I think that, you know, having 9 midterm high school guys, you know, is one example of where I think this class is at. Recruiting for the Big 12, I've mentioned a lot that it's been getting easier. Not getting easier. There's nothing easy about recruiting, but being able to sell the Big 12 brand on the East Coast has gotten has gotten somewhat easier based on the fact of familiarity.
Sure,
We got a lot of exciting games on Mountaineer Field. And it's happened for 4 years now. So a lot of these kids that are signing with us, we got 7 from Ohio, 4 from Pennsylvania, 3 from Maryland, 2 from West Virginia, a couple from North Carolina, 1 from New York. We're talking about border states.
Yeah.
And so all those guys, when they have Saturdays off, they can travel to Morgantown and watch a Big 12 football game. Well, that's the only place that they can do that on the East Coast. So the Big 12 brand is very important, and these guys, not only just for 1 year, but these kids were in 9th grade when the Big 12 was happening here in West Virginia, and they've been seeing it for 3-4 years, and it makes a lot more sense to them. So I think we're getting more quality kids, regional quality kids that understand what the Big 12 is all about.
What did you identify as biggest areas of need with this class? And you look at it, running back, Justin Crawford's in. Seems immediately like a guy that comes in and provides some significant help for you and depth at the running back spot. And then also in the back end with some of the junior college guys you bring in at safety and defensive back as well jump out at me.
Well, there's a little bit of everything. If you look at it, we got a specialist, a quarterback, couple running backs, couple receivers, couple O linemen, couple D linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 safeties, and 4 corners. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What the immediate help, is obviously when you start reaching out to junior colleges. Yeah. I don't know if you heard me when Crawford came through about 15 minutes ago. That was the one that got me real excited. When Wendell declared, there was a void there, and I feel really good about Rush Lachelle. I mean, he's going to come back and have a great senior year, working his tail off. That Justin's more of an all-purpose guy. I mean, if you just watch the video, he's got, he can hit the hole. He's got unbelievable ball skills. The kid can, like Wendell did. You can do a lot of different things with Wendell. You get him in the open space right here, he can make people miss. He can go score touchdowns. He's a 200-pound athletic guy that can really go. So he's going to be able to fill that void that Wendell left. Trayvon Wesco, we lost Cody Clay. Yeah. So here's a big, tough, West Virginia kid that can be able to come in here and fill that role. And then we know what we lost in the secondary. We know what we lost at linebacker. I feel like we got some good young kids in the program, but you better get some older guys that will be able to handle the physical nature of the conference that we play in.
And when you look, you talked about those JC kids and those kids who have been battle tested at that level. When you see some of the success, use the resources around you to succeed and to win. And when you see some of the success that Bill Snyder's had in that Jayhawk League out there in Kansas, he uses what's around him. Well, what we have around us are the Nassaus, and the Lackawannas, and it's nice to see us to tap into an appreciable extent some of that talent and really draw them in and offer a brand of football that they can't find elsewhere, and it's working out for us.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Kaiser White just a little bit. I mean, he was the one guy that we've spent a lot of time with for over the last couple of years. But with that said, I mean, he's still his own guy. He's not just going to become a legacy kid to West Virginia University just because of Kevin and Karan. But now he's had lots of offers. This guy had over 30, 40 offers. There were so many offers he didn't even entertain a bunch of them, but had a lot of places that he could go. He's gonna step in. We lost KJ Dillon and Carl Joseph. I mean, those guys are 4-year starters for us that played a lot. Kaiser's 6'2", and he's 210 pounds. He's a big, thick guy that loves football, that can affect the ball. I mean, we're looking for him to be able to come in and play right away. Lackawanna has been really good to us. Yeah. Every player that we've got out of Lackawanna has been productive. You mentioned Nassau. We were in there a little bit. They had Mike Daniels was at Nassau for 1 year, and he transferred over to Globe. South Florida kid that has been in the city of New York. Down Globe's right in the middle of Manhattan. It's wild. Right by Times Square, and he hates it. He wants to come to the hills. So he said, when I talked to him yesterday, I'm like, you in the middle of the city. He's like, Coach, right by Times Square. I'm ready to get to the hills of West Virginia. So, but he's got a chance to come in. We lost Chestnut. We lost Worley. We lost some guys that played a lot of ball for us. He's a thick kid that's made plays, that comes from a pretty good program in South Florida, and should be able to come in and step in and play right away. But having those Northeast schools, it's important, the junior colleges, because you're getting kids from the East Coast. We've focused on the East Coast for a long time. for the last 2-3 years, and being able to get some guys from the junior college ranks to replace 4-year starters is pretty important.
And it's easy for me to get excited over the skill guys anytime you're looking at a quality class like this and stretching from the Northeast down to that D.C. Baltimore metro, and you bring in a guy like Steve Smothers, when you bring in the Adams brothers both in the fold now, on down to North Carolina, we're getting some skill guys out of there. But one of the things that jumps off the page at me with this class, Coach, is it speaks to how, from a philosophical standpoint, this offense has evolved. I mean, now all of a sudden, we're running the football 50 times a game. The misconception is you're not throwing it. When you're running 85, 90 snaps a game, you can do both. But when you're running it 50 times a game, all of a sudden you're a pretty enticing and appealing product to those big physical 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" Hawks that like to play aggressive physical football.
Yeah, you need in order to run the offense that we're running now, Jed, I mean, you can recruit one type of kid to be just a run offense. You can recruit a specific type of kid to run a spread offense, but you got to recruit, some versatile guys that can do both. And that the Crawford kid's a prime example of that. Kennedy McCoy, who's on campus right now, down in the weight room right now, is a versatile guy that can do things in the pass game, but can do things in the run game as well. And then you better get some big, thick kids, like you said up front, that can not only pass protect, but also can put your hand in the ground and can get after some people. Wesco's like that. He's a guy that's an athletic ex-basketball player. Huggins recruited him about 4 or 5 years ago, and he just got too big. I mean, his head's as big as this table, but very athletic kid, but weighs 270 pounds and will be able to do some things that we did with Cody just as far as helping us in the run game.
Yeah. Give us your breakdown of the quarterback in this class. Cody Saunders, 2,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing, only guy in Florida to do that this last season.
It's the same thing that I just talked about. It's a dual threat. It's a guy that can do some things in the run game, but can also be a pocket guy, can get on the run, and sling the thing around a little bit. He was a very productive player, originally from Virginia, so he gets this part of the country, he understands it, and moved down to Florida, played good Florida football for 3 years, played an all-star game down there, and did a good job. But he's got great speed, he's got good size, he's going to continue to get bigger. The one thing, unlike years past, where we've been needing these quarterback spots, these guys to come in and be a potential third team guy or a potential second team guy. You look at this roster right now, we got 5 guys on scholarship that are all about the same kind of guy. They're all about 6'1", 6'2", 200, 205 pounds that are athletic, can run. It's going to be a fun competition situation in the spring. Skylar coming off of his best performance he's ever had. We got all these receivers coming back that are kind of starting to figure some things out. You add Steven Smothers to that list. Who's a dynamic player that can do a whole bunch of things. It's going to be fun in the spring to be able to watch these quarterbacks, see how they develop.
And one of the cracks between the keys when you're evaluating quarterbacks, and this is where this is going. Yeah, he's athletically gifted, but he's also a physical kid, and that's the Skylar in him. The Skylar Howard in him, that tough, hard-nosed kid. In talking to his coach, he gained some of that in that city league that he played at in Virginia. He's not afraid to lower a shoulder and punish you a little bit. That kind of thing resonates in a huddle. That kind of thing resonates in a meeting room from a leadership standpoint.
It is, and they got to be able to take some hits. Doing with what we've been doing with those guys, they got to be able to take some hits. And we're one of the few teams in the country last year that had their quarterback for 13 games. Yeah. Now, he got dinged up game 10. I think it was probably game 9. Probably affected him probably a little bit more than he would lead on, just looking at him. And then how he came back from that after a month's rest, he looked like a completely different, refreshed guy in that bowl game. So the point is you better have number 2 ready. You better have number 3 ready. It happens all the time across the country. I don't want to wish that on any starting quarterback, but guys going this direction where they're on the move and you're running them between the tackles and they're involved in the pass game and the run game, guys are going to take hits. So if something happens where that guy's on the sideline for a while, number 2, number 3 better be able to go in there and produce the same way if you want to be able to win the game.
Yeah. And one of the kids I'd like to talk to you about briefly is Brendan Ferns, because what he represents coming out of the state of Ohio, if we're going to have success, which we have regionally from a recruiting standpoint, you go into Ohio, first of all, you have to sell your product against those schools. Second of all, it boiled down to, as I understand it, us and Penn State. So from a regional standpoint, those are two things that we've traditionally always had to try to overcome. And it's not easy to do that, but this is a case in one kid where we had to overcome both, and we did. We outsold them. He likes what he sees here, and here he comes.
Well, he's a little bit of a legacy kid too. You know, having Michael here and his family's been involved in WVU athletics for a long time, coming to these games. So it's refreshing, you know, to think that we have a legacy kid that's just going to come here. Well, we had to recruit this guys too, and Coach Crook did a great job of going over to Ohio to be able to recruit this. You know, to be able to seal the deal with him. You know, we're talking about a U.S. Army All-American. You know, that Ohio State was involved in him. I mean, he had lots of options. He could have went to a lot of different places. And to have him in Morgantown is pretty cool. There's a couple other guys from Ohio, linebackers, and Zach Sandwich and Adam Hensley. Those guys were highly recruited. They're 6'2", 6'3", big, long guys that we beat a lot of people out. So Ohio was really good to us this year. You know, mentioned Coach Crook did a wonderful job there. Bruce Tall did an unbelievable job over in Ohio, being able to get not only those guys, but a couple of corners as well.
I know it's a team effort with the coaching staff, but I know there's a lot of people behind the scenes as well that put in a lot of hours for you guys too, that you're happy with as well.
Yeah, Ryan Dorchester continues to develop this roster. Casey Smithson did a great job of coordinating visits when these guys came over. The roster looks just so much different than it did for a long time. You know, we were pretty low with our numbers for a long time. You know, and then as it is right now, I mean, we're sitting right at probably 83, 84, somewhere in there. Get all these guys qualified, probably add a couple guys as well, you know, to where we'll be out there pretty healthy. And that's Ryan Dorchester understanding this roster and making sure that, you know, we're going to be able to fill these slots is pretty important.
Coach, congratulations. Thanks for stopping by for a few minutes, and enjoy a couple of days here.
You got it. Maybe a day or two off. Huh?
Maybe a day or two. That's
right. The first time since July.
That's correct. That's right. The head coach, Dana Holgorsen, with us here on our set. Our National Signing Day Special presented by United Bank. There's the big board with the letters of intent that we have in right there. As we're winding down our coverage right towards 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay with us. More coming up here on WVUSports.com.